Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This program is Muslims Together. It is to talk about Muslim issues across the world, any issue, and how Muslims are dealing with it, how Muslims are coping with it, and what they are doing to solve the problems. And that is most important. How are they being a part of the mainstream society, in particular in democracies where Muslims are a tiny minority? But of course, in Bahrain, where Sami Hussein is, it's a all Muslim majority nation, and also they have I believe there is a Jewish woman ambassador from Bahrain to some other country, which we appreciate that. Now, Sir Muhammad Abbasi, please share a few things about who you are, what you do, and then share the problems of the UK.
Thanks, Michael, for just give you a little bit of background of who I am, what I do. I have been born and bred in the United Kingdom. My parents are from Pakistani background.
Can you get closer to the mic?
I will. Let me just see if that's better. Is that better? Slightly?
Little better, yes.
Let me just see if I can put the speaker microphone. I think it'll be better. Is that better? Slightly?
Yes, much better.
Okay. So my name is Muhammad Abbasi. I'm one of the heads of the Association of British Muslims, which is the UK's oldest Muslim organization. So we started in 1889 by Abdullah Quilliam Bey, who was a convert. So our organization is the oldest in the UK. It may not be the biggest, but it's one of the oldest. The other things I do work on conflict resolution, peace building. We use sports as a tool of diplomacy, connecting different sides, different groups together. I'm also involved on different types of conflict resolution work with different countries. That's that side. The other side, I'm also involved in strategy and peace building. Strategy, mind mapping techniques. I think you've seen some of them online. I also teach on issues around Sun Tzu and also Miyamoto Musashi, who's the Japanese strategist. So that's basically what I do. It was a hobby. It's become a job as well, which I'm enjoying, and that's that.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Now, what are the Muslim issues? What are the issues Muslims facing in UK?
Well, first of all, Muslims have been in the United Kingdom since around the 14th or 15th century. And this is the key thing people do not understand outside Britain or even within Britain. During the reign of Queen Elizabeth I, there was a lot of connectivity between England at that time and elements of the Muslim world, specifically the Ottoman Empire. Now, today, Muslims in the UK number around 3.5 million out of a population of about around 65 million. The thing is, some parts of London, according to the National Office of Statistics in the UK, around 50% of the people in certain parts of London are Muslim. Muslims are dotted across the country. A lot of the Muslims today in the UK are from our ethnic backgrounds, so Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi. So some parts of the UK, I mean, people are saying in government that some cities may end up being majority Muslim within about 10 to 15 years' time. So in 2018, 2019, I believe there was about 3.2 million Muslims in the UK. Today, or a few months ago, the figure was about 3.5 or 3.6 million. So nearly 4 million in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
So they make up around 6% of England's population. 6%, not 3%. So that's the key thing. When you look at from a religious point of view, Um, Christians are about, out of the 65 million, I believe around 25, 26 million profess themselves of Christian from different denominations. Hindus are about 1 million. Jews are about 350,000. Sikhs are nearly half a million. And other religions are just under a million. Most people in the UK, not most people, I think about 40, 42, 43% call themselves agnostics. Then
That
there's a
high agnostics, that's a high number, 43%.
Yeah, it's about 40, I think it's about 41, 42, something like that percent. This was on the office of through the Office of National Statistics
Yes.
in the UK. It might even be slightly higher actually. Um, so if you look now at different areas of the United Kingdom where Muslim mostly located, they're Christian areas. Here, the city that I'm usually in, which is Birmingham, it's kind of like it's like a province or like a state within that,
Hmm.
and we call it a county. The county of West Midlands, nearly 10% are Muslims in the West Midlands, and around 50% are Christians. So if you go down towards London, nearly 15% are Muslim, and I think about 45% are Christian. So there's different dots everywhere. For example, in Yorkshire or Bradford side, around 7 or 8% are Muslims and about 50% are Christians. If you look at London itself, within London, the different areas of London, for example, you got Newham, which is nearly 45% Muslim, Barking and Dagenham, another area of London, 26% Muslim, Redbridge, nearly 30% Muslim, Brent, not far from Kensington and Chelsea, that's 30%. Tower Hamlets is about 40-45%. So the thing is, when people from the outside look in, because of the media and different things. I mean, it's almost like either the Muslims are being persecuted, or the Muslims are like this, or the Muslims are that, and there's this kind of a victim mentality within some of our Muslim brothers and sisters as well,
Yes,
not
yes,
just in the
indeed.
United Kingdom, in
How
other
are the
countries as well.
relationships?
And this is
Go ahead.
one.
What
Yeah.
are the, let's talk about relationship between Muslims and the white population, Muslims and Hindus. Those are the critical issues.
Mhm.
Or can you tell a little bit about that?
Sure. Where the white population is concerned, around 10 to 15% of Muslims in the UK are actually of white background. They are of mostly, for example, Paul Saladin Armstrong, who's my colleague, who's the head of the Association of British Muslims. He's a white Briton. I believe he's from Norfolk, but that's a different issue. So the thing is, the relationships between people of who are ethnic people like from Asian or Arab background, Muslims, and the white population, as it were. A lot of the white population do not know that white Muslims exist. A lot of the population of Asians or Arabs, we have kind of brought cultural baggage into the United Kingdom, and also to an extent in the United States and other countries. I'm not saying there's a discrimination between us and the white population, especially white Muslims, but it's almost as though we are better Muslims than them simply because they are white. Yeah, and this is the thing. So there's people. I mean, for example, a brother converted, a white brother who was a former neo-Nazi in the UK, and we used to debate, and absolutely, he used to be absolutely horrible actually to us. But myself and Paul and a couple of others, we kept engaging him, and we didn't want to convert him or anything. And what actually happened is one of the days, Paul Saladin Armstrong, he rings me and said, Mohammed, what are you doing tomorrow at this time? I said, why? I said, well, he mentioned the name of the brother who's a Muslim now. He wants to convert. I said, is he taking drugs or what's his issue now? No, no, he goes, he's here. He's here with me. I want you to chat with him. So we just chatted. We bantered. And it's like he's actually very serious about becoming Muslim. And what was happening is the way we were engaging as Muslims with him, um, just listening to his concerns and trying to not debate him, but understand his points of view, his valid points of view, different points of view. And once you kind of we kind of remove that victim mentality in his head about himself, looking at himself as a victim of his community, the white community, so called, as victims, he realized that there's a lot of commonalities between Islam, between the religion that he grew up with, which was Christianity. And according to him, we were answering his questions as a Christian in a way that was decent. No one actually spoke to him like that. And anyway, so we still banter with him. We still joke with him. He's hand on my heart, I can say that he's probably a better Muslim now than I am. And it's good to see that his life has changed and he finds peace and goodness within his religion, Islam.
What we
But
did add to that, I think this is a very good point you made. Listening to him
mhm,
and seeing his point of view and responding from what he is familiar with. And that's what brings people closer. It brings that connection. And I'm glad
sure.
you have that approach. We have taken the same approach here. And when the Pastor Jones was burning the copy of the Quran, and we went and dealt with it, we are preparing a documentary. Inshallah, it will be out on September 11th on the 20th anniversary. We did the
Well,
same approach that you did. We acknowledged the free speech of Pastor Jones who wanted to burn the copies of the Quran. We didn't criticize him, but his right to free speech. And that changed the mindset of the mayor of that town, two mayors, and the sheriff, local sheriff. They all asked me, "You're a Muslim. Is it okay with him burning the copy of Quran?" I said, "It is not okay with me, but it is his right to free speech." That brought all of us together and we were able to tackle the problem, and only because uh, acknowledging his free speech without agreeing what he was doing it to be right. And I'm so pleased to hear that your approach is fairly similar, and we will continue to do that. I
inshallah.
have done the same thing with the right wing extremists in the US. When I deal with them, I don't criticize them, I listen to them because they're obviously they got some information from someplace they're talking about. And
Mhm.
it is, I know I use the word phrase, Jesus phrase, forgive them, Lord, for they know not. I use it frequently. And then it becomes our responsibility for us to let them know. And that's what Surah Hujura in the Quran 49:13 says. The best one among you are those who learn and to understand each other. And there is a great wisdom out there. I am see that wisdom in application by you, Abbasi. I'm so glad the extremist right-wing Christian who was a neo-Nazi to become Muslim. That is fabulous. Please
Well, I'm happy
continue.
to introduce him. I'm happy to introduce him to you. It's actually his. We still banter online. We still joke with each other. For example, I mean, sometimes I call him a mullah of all things because it's a bit more like, brother, is that halal? I said, oh, for God's sake, here we go again. So it's kind of refreshing. It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah.
But where our relations with other communities are concerned, I think the relations are very strong. Most Muslims, for example, are just normal, decent human beings. There are obviously groups within our community and like any other community that kind of wind people up from different angles.
Mhm.
But relations between the Muslim community and the Jewish community is strong. Muslims and Hindus are strong, but I think in all cases they could be worked on a lot more. Where the Hindu community is concerned, for example, I have engaged with elements from the Hindu community, especially those who are considered very right wing or very pro Hindutva. For
What
example,
what is
RSS.
the what is the medium of connection with them? How do you connect with them?
Medium of connection is basically it could be Facebook, it could be other people that I know. My other work in resolution, peace building, football for peace, put me in contact with different communities, different groups, and within them, for example, we not just me but Paul and others, we if they have issues with the Muslim community, as though we're representative of all Muslims, we engage with them, we talk with them. So there were people, for example, in a small number of British Hindus who had issues with British Muslims, and they were using very insulting words on the Muslims, and the Muslims were using insulting words on them. This was on Facebook, on social media. So I contacted an uncle in the community,
Hmm.
and
A Hindu
my uncle
uncle.
happened to be
Yeah.
one of the uncles,
Yes.
and not one of the uncles. I respect him. He's an elder, and he was a senior member of the HSS, which is the overseas version of the RSS.
RSS. Yes.
So it's kind of like I didn't know that at the time. I thought he was just an elder in the community, and um, we we had conversations. Those conversations are continuing. There are certain issues that he brought up to me, and some of the people that he introduced me to. But the what happened was the kind of slight anger of a group that was engaging with Muslims in a very kind of caustic way, and the Muslims were engaging them with them in a caustic way.
Yes.
We brought elements from those two together,
What do you mean the elements?
and
What do you mean by elements?
elements, some people. So
Okay.
one person from this group, one person from that group, and me and the uncle, the Hindu uncle, we were I was going to use the word merums. We were the guys who kind of kept the peace. So we had some matai there, we had some tea there. Matai was gone actually even before they started, but that's a different issue. and and what happened? They actually engaged with each other, and we had actually the discussion was absolutely beautiful, absolutely wonderful, because there was elements within Muslims these Muslims who didn't know what was going on, where these guys were coming from, and the people within this group, the Hindu group, the individual representing, he was mentioning so many other things, and it was a good learning experience for me. And I believe the uncle from the HSS, who not just from the Muslims or the Hindu side, but generally how our minds have become a bit more kind of hard wired to believe what we believe. So not the truth, but believe what we believe. And that kind of wall, it's without even realizing what we do sometimes, not just as Muslims, I think people generally, we become defensive, whatever our identity is. When we keep building a wall, a stronger wall, not even realizing it's a wall. So when
Yes.
someone shouts from the other side, all we hear is a shout, not like why. So this is the same thing, I think, with different community relations, not just in the UK, but in other countries. I think there needs to be a lot more healthier exchange of ideas and information. And also, people should have the right, absolute 100% right to the freedom of speech. And yes, even the freedom to insult. And I'll tell you why. When people insult, it's not that they're insulting us, they're actually feel anger or something from their own angle, and we need to know why are they feeling that way.
So good, such a good way, such a good approach, Basi. And that's really, I'm listening to this, and inshallah, of course, this recording will be available on YouTube. But I'm going to write a note about this discussion. I think this is a very good approach you're taking. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just something that is there, and the thing is, we as Muslims, the other thing, I think, and this is just my own kind of an idea. I've been just looking at things in a slightly different way. I mean, people saying, "Are you a Muslim?" I said, "Yes, I'm a Muslim." "Is your religion Islam?" I said, "Yes, my religion is Islam." And I feel a bit kind of like humbled when I say that. Is my religion Islam? But I've become to realize my religion is not Islam. That is Allah's religion. It's God's religion. And the path that we follow is the path towards Islam. So the path that we follow, regardless of our sect, our understanding about religion is or God is, I think when we humble ourselves and we walk the path and we learn as much as we can about Allah, Allah's creation, different types of people, everything calls to the majesty and the glory of God. And we need to be a bit more humble, not just as Muslims, but I think people who believe in God. And we need to walk the path towards whatever we call our religion, whatever identity that we have,
Mhm.
towards a path that is, I'm going to use the word loosely, Islamic to our own selves. And we have to be a lot more stricter on our own selves as human beings, a lot more lenient to the people around us, because this is how we learn.
I know this gentleman from, I believe it was name was Amjad, someone he was going around blocking the areas about Sharia. This is a Sharia center, nobody can come. Tell me
Yeah.
about that. Tell me about him and what
Well,
is going on with imposing Sharia laws by some groups. How how small the groups are? How is that a real
okay.
French group, or is there is a common support for it?
Well, this is the Sharia. What is Sharia? Sharia means a way, a path. And British common law is based on Maliki fiqh. Maliki fiqh that was actually from Sicily when the Arabs were there in the 12th and 13th century. I believe um, that is British common law. So British common law is based on Sharia. American common
This
law, or
is
elements of American common law, derived from British law, which is also, therefore, elements of Sharia in US law. Okay, now the thing is, I can send you more information about that. We can have a whole
I would
chat.
like to read. I would like to read more about this. The Maliki fiqh as a British common law. I just like to know more about it. This is very
Maliki,
interesting.
let me just quickly see if I can find you the thing. Maliki British common law. And here we go. Now, this is I'm just sending you this now, the Islamic origins of common law. Let me just in your inbox. Um, so when someone basically questions me in Sharia, I said, what kind of Sharia are you asking? Yeah. Are you asking about controlling people or protecting people? It's
Wow,
about protecting
that's a
people.
good question. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely. So if you want to control people, then your mindset is not really on Islam, it's about politics. If you want to protect people, that's Islam. Now, the Taliban, elements of the Taliban not elements, I think the Taliban generally are considered murtads, out of the fold of Islam, by ISIS.
mhm,
Yeah. Anjum Chaudhry, the gentleman that you mentioned earlier,
yes,
he's saying Afghan Taliban is not strict enough already. Yeah? And he's asking them to be a lot more stricter. Yeah.
yes.
His agenda is different than even the Taliban's.
Mhm.
Anjum Chaudhry is representative of a minute number of Muslims in the UK. I'm not going to call them non-Muslims. If a person calls himself Muslim, is a Muslim. If a terrorist commits an atrocity who happens to be a Muslim, is still a Muslim. So we can't kind of engage in the same thinking as they do. I mean, others might call us murtads, but we shouldn't go down that route because we're not the judges. Only
Yes,
Allah is.
yes.
But where people like Anjum Chaudhry are concerned, and similar kind of groups in other parts of the world, they have very kind of a focused, very severe understanding of Islam. And they obviously use elements of the Sharia, elements of the Quran, Hadith, to push their own agendas forward in a different way.
Mhm.
But it's our responsibility to make our voices stronger and heard a lot more. Because remember, we represent more than 99% or 99.9% of Muslims. And if 0.1% misbehave in a very loud fashion,
Very true.
then I mean, we don't focus on Timothy McVeigh and what he did in, the in 1996 or whenever that was, but
92 in Oklahoma.
92 in Oklahoma, 96, I believe it was the Atlanta Olympics where someone exploded some stuff. But there's so many other things like that. And now what it is, and this is something I keep saying to, I don't like calling them non-Muslims, but people from the wider communities in the US who say that Muslims have an issue with terrorism and extremism. Yes, there are issues of extremism and terrorism within Muslims, but so they are in other groups as well. And we need to collectively help each other to understand why there are problems like this. You've got issues with incel extremism, kids or people sitting alone in their bedrooms who don't have a healthy view of women.
Yes.
And that's a form of extremism in their own head. So people are sitting at home behind computer screens, radicalizing themselves. What are we doing about that? What are we doing about? And I'll say this: what are we doing about capitalist extremism? There are people within. I'm all for capitalism, but I'm not all for unregulated capitalism. For example, the best thing you can see is, I don't know if you're a fan of Star Trek. So in Star Trek, there's a group of aliens called the Ferengi,
Uh-huh.
and the Ferengi have these rules of acquisition, and it's purely, very, very hardcore capitalist system. So, for example, they wouldn't put clothes on their women; they buy and sell their women, and it kind of like calls back to the very different view, kind of very hardcore view of what capitalism should be. But it's just one thing. I mean, the other thing is you've got issues with left wing extremism or socialism or other groups. For example, in the UK, we had a couple of the people who are now, they speak very loudly about Islamophobia and how Muslims are being persecuted around the world and all that kind of stuff. In the 1990s, some of these same people were supporting the Bosnian Serbs against the Bosnian Muslims, and they were saying that the Muslims, they're kind of, it's not true that they are dying. They're just trying to drag the West in to attack the Serbs. And I'll give you some of the names of these guys, not on here, but it's sad how a lot of Muslims, without even thinking, now follow people like that. And the issue of Islamophobia, of course, there's issues of anti-Muslim hatred, like anti-Jewish hatred,
Mhm.
anti-Hindu hatred, etc., etc., etc. We need to think healthily about why people hate each other,
Yes.
rather than kind of fall back into this kind of a victim mentality, which politicians and religious people from different sides use for their own agendas. Victimization, victim mentality is something that is growing in Muslims, not just in the UK and in the US, but in other countries, and we need to challenge that.
Yeah. Where do you think that mentality comes from? Is it
I think,
because they're getting beat every
oh
place?
gosh, I mean,
They're getting beat
sorry.
every place, every
Uh,
country.
the thing is, look, victim mentality happens when you or your group or your family think that bad things keep happening to them, and everyone seems to be against them. Um, the thing is with Muslims, if we go back into history, our religion kind of opened us up
Yes.
to clearly be stronger, be more virtuous. This is the reason we had the Islamic Golden Age. It lasted for a few hundred years, and we didn't have a victim mentality then. We were strong. Um, the word, I think, even the word jihad, we were actually jihadis in a good sense at that time. We improved ourselves, we improved the people around us, we looked out for the people. We were the superpower. Now, the thing is, I think in the 12th or 13th century, after Salahuddin, I think it was Baghdad, where the epicenter of the Muslim empire was. Genghis Khan sent a delegation, an ambassador to the Muslims at that time. They wanted to open up negotiations, trade negotiations with the Muslims. Do you know about that?
No, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So what?
all I know is Genghis Khan came and uprooted everything in Baghdad, burned the libraries. That part I know. I
Absolutely.
don't know the part you are mentioning.
Okay. So this is actually history, and what actually happened? The Sultan at that time had the ambassador beheaded, and some of the people, you can actually check this online. I mean, my friend Robert Greene, who
Mhm.
wrote 48 Laws of Power, he actually told me a lot more in-depth story about this. And what he said is that so. So the some of the ambassadors' colleagues then went back and said, "This is what happened." Genghis Khan said, "This might have been a mistake." Yeah, so he sent another ambassador. The same thing happened again. And third time round, he didn't send an ambassador, he sent his army down. And the Muslims at that time thought they were the superpower. They were very, very strong. They knew how to fight and all that. Um, they just fell apart when the Mongol hordes decided to invade.
Yes.
And that was just one of the mistakes of the Muslims about humility. When you lack humility, whether in your country or society, your own people, and you nature or things that start humbling you.
Hmm.
For example, I'm not saying this is what happened with the United States, but for example, the United States was in Afghanistan for 20 odd years. It's almost like, oh, you had four presidents, and the Taliban has been replaced with the Taliban again. So, but I find it's 2.0 version. But the thing is, it's kind of like it's sad that this is happening. I have a great deal of respect for American friends and the United States, and I think we need the United States as a strong country in over the next few decades, with China rising and other countries like India, etc. But it's going to be difficult, I think, if we continue on a path of kind of where we think wars might be better
Hmm.
rather than finding ways of peace. But with the Muslims back in the idea of victim mentality, so also if you look at now the printing press, Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, around the same time or just after a few hundred years, they banned the printing press. That's like
Yes.
the internet. And suddenly you had all these uneducated Europeans, like who were like hundreds of years behind you. They had the printing press. And you got Muslim literature being translated into English, into German, into Latin, other kind of stuff. And there's like so much there. So suddenly they rise, they go into different countries, including India, or what is now Pakistan and Bangladesh. They colonize, and it's just the way things are. We as Muslims then develop this kind of understanding that this is Allah is persecuting us. No, Allah is not persecuting you.
Indeed.
You're persecuting yourself.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
and that's the key thing. We have this unhealthy attitude that if anything happens, oh, it's the will of Allah, and you didn't really do anything to protect yourself. You didn't do anything. I mean, it's like I'm hungry. Oh, okay, it's the will of Allah. I'll just let myself be hungry. I'm thirsty. It's the will of Allah. I'll remain thirsty. You quench your thirst. You go and eat. So,
yes.
so this is the thing.
But
And
Muhammad,
sorry,
different people have different sets of beliefs. If that works for them, how does it matter to us?
well, the thing is, if it works for them, but if you look at it this way, if you look at it's like, for example, you wanting to feed. I mean, one of the things we do here in the UK, and it's in other countries as well, we like feeding people. We, feed our friends, families, but more so over the time of COVID. There's a lot of people who are poor, they couldn't afford things, and we've been giving them food, etc. We would also like to give them jobs. We would also like to get them to have a productive mindset.
Mhm.
Because if you keep feeding people, if you keep giving people water, food, etc., etc. I'm not saying they become dependent on you, but they themselves do not feel as though they are equal to you.
Yes.
Yeah? We're not superior to them. Yeah,
No, no, nobody's superior to anybody. We're
yeah,
all, nobody's more privileged than anyone else. Uh,
exactly.
uh, Muhammad Abbasi, I want you to repeat that sentence you mentioned. Sharia is protecting fellow humans, or what was the other question? Can you
Oh
say
my
the,
gosh,
I'm writing
yeah.
it down.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I said basically Sharia is a path. It means a path.
Uh-huh.
And what else did I say? Oh my gosh, about Sharia.
You said Sharia is protecting fellow humans, or destroying, or something. You use the word.
Okay, so Sharia is about protecting human beings,
Uh-huh.
not not empowering yourself
No,
and
not
other
ruling,
people.
not ruling others. I think you
Not
said not
yeah,
ruling others.
something like yeah. So
I will
something.
I'll go back to the video and find
Oh
what,
my God!
but they were very powerful words. And in my writings, I would like to use that as your quote.
Oh, thank you.
That was a good, powerful statement you made. And we got about 4 more minutes. You may want to summarize how Muslims are dealing with the issues. And I like your approach of conflict resolutions, and also listening to them. And that is a very powerful approach towards finding solutions. If you don't listen to them, how do you solve the problem? So please go ahead and summarize in about 4 minutes.
No, so the key thing is we need to stop waiting for other people to take the lead, whether they are Muslims or non-Muslims. It doesn't matter. We need to stop having this kind of victim mentality. I'm not saying we're not victims, but the thing is perpetuating this victim mentality within your own community, latching on
Yes.
to all the negative parts. It kind of feeds in to other people that you are in touch with. So if you're a father or your mother, you have a family and you have this victim mentality, that
Mhm.
victim mentality will go out to your children, or whoever they come into contact with. This is not who we are as Muslims. We're
Mhm.
much stronger than that. We're much better. The religion that we follow is Allah's religion. It is not our religion, and we need to honor that path. We need to basically take much greater responsibility for our own lives and also be stronger in practicing Islam in our deeds, not just words. So other communities can see us. It's not about our egos we're talking about. It's talking about God's religion, Allah's religion.
Mhm.
We have issues within our communities here in the UK and other countries as well. For example, drugs, alcohol abuse, believe it or not, gun and knife crime within our communities is increasing here in the UK. And but not just in the Muslim communities, other communities as well. And there's so many other things, so many common issues that we can deal with other communities if we simply just kind of open up a bit more and understand what it means to be a citizen, not just of our countries, but a citizen of of Islam. I guess a ambassador for Islam, an ambassador for God, and we all have shared values just deep down within us. I mean, when we talk about Muslim, it's like a capital Muslim. I am a Muslim. Yeah,
Mhm.
in a way, we are all born Muslim with that kind of fitra, that kind of a small letter Muslim,
Mhm.
been born as humble towards God. And whether or not we kind of follow, the route towards God or not, that's not the issue. The issue is that we continue to kind of spread these shared values. We look at each other as human beings, and we simply kind of listen to one another and see how we can move forward.
Perfect, perfect. Friends, we had a conversation with Muhammad Abbasi about how Muslims are dealing with the issues in UK as a minority, as well as fellow minorities out there. And we had a, I hope you enjoyed this video. And we will conclude this program now. However, we'll keep this link on. At 2 o'clock, we're going to talk about Islamic values, how truthfulness contributes. Abbasi, you are so right. The Islamic values are not Muslim, our values. They are common values God has given to the entire humanity, and how those values change the societies. We're going to talk about truthfulness. And if you could join back, we will have question and answers. Dr. Safi and I will be talking from 2 to 2:30, and then question and answers on that issue. So we will pause at this point. Those who will join to the conversation, we appreciate them. But we'll start the program at 2. Thank you very much, Muhammad. Assalamu
Thank you
alaikum.
very much. Walaikum salam.